Hi gents, this is Mr. Holding. This video is just having a look at the Term 1 Year 9 Religion assignment and just breaking it down so that you have can attack it with as much confidence as possible. So I'll be brief, so I'll get started. So first of all, we want to have a look at here. So the information, it's obviously 9RE, Semester 1, Term 1, 2019. And basically the unit is, why do sacred scriptures still matter? Okay, do they matter to us? Do they matter to other cultures? All those kind of things. The dates information is there. Your teacher will talk to you a bit more specifically about that. All right, so brief description of the task. So the first thing you want to look at is this. All right, and so the basic question is, in the Abrahamic traditions, okay, so first of all, we need to know what they are. Okay, so you should know the Christianity, Judaism, and Islam or Muslim. How do the three faiths understand God? Okay, so the Jewish version of God, our version of God, the Trinity, and the Islam's idea of Allah. How do we understand God? All right, how do we go about doing that? And obviously that is linked to Scripture. All right, the genre is an expository essay. Okay, so you need to know what that is. Look into it. Okay, what task requirements are in an essay? It's different to a report. It's different to a story, a narrative. Okay, we need to write according to that because that is how you're going to be assessed as well. Okay, in respect to answering a task. We move down here to subject matter and task instruction, and this gets a bit more specific. This is where you're going to get the nuts and bolts of what you're required to do. So first of all, the task. Write a well-written expository essay which investigates each of the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Okay? Identify how God or Allah is depicted within each of these faiths. So that's key, so I'm going to highlight that. So identify how God or Allah is depicted within each of these faiths. For your fingers get mine, I'm just going to replace this. Alright, so that's a bit better. Okay, so my bit of it, identify how God or Allah are depicted within each of these faiths, religious texts. Okay, and that's a key part. So how is Scripture doing that? Alright, and in terms of our expository essay, it's a formal writing that aims to explain, illustrate, or clarify something so that it's clear to the reader. So we want to do this in a way that is clear, so we can read it, your audience can read it and go, oh, okay, that's pretty clear how the Jewish faith understand God based on their text. Oh, that's how Christians do it. Oh, that's how Muslims do it. All right, so you want to be clear. Our instructions. You can see that there are three sections, all right? One for Judaism, one for Christianity, and one for, down here, for Islam. All right, so the first one, describe, all right, it's a key term here, how Judaism represents God in the Old Testament. Okay, that's the basic thing. How does Judaism represent God in the Old Testament? And to do that, you need to choose a story of the Old Testament that reflects the relationship between God and His chosen people. Don't just pick anyone, all right, even though most of them will do that anyway. Choose one that you feel reflects the relationship between God and His chosen people, okay? Then you are to investigate this by selecting one of the following, okay? The creation story, Noah and the great floods, call of Abraham, first covenant, the Passover, Exodus from Egypt, Moses, and Ten Commandments. So these are your choices. So pick from here. All right, so go along. You may know some of them, you may like a couple of them, or some of them may be new to you, but you need to choose one of those particular stories. Obviously, read it, investigate it, and then go from there. All right. Next one is analyze your story. Okay, using biblical criticism. All right. Okay, to assist your understanding of the story. So now we've talked about the three worlds of the text. What are the three worlds of the text? Okay, so you need to talk about that. In your analysis, you need to be seen to be using this. Okay, so it's not just simply a matter of going, oh, you know, Noah and the great flood is symbolic because of this. Well, be explicit in your use of the three worlds of the text. Okay, so in front of the text, in the text, and beyond the text. Okay, so that's the first one. So describe how Judaism represents God. Investigate it by selecting one of the stories and analyze the story using biblical criticism, specifically the three worlds of the text. That's the first section. The second section, describe. Okay, so a similar thing, how Christianity represents God. How do we represent God? Obviously, there's a hint up here. God, the Trinity. So I'd be expecting you to talk about the Trinity. Investigate this by choosing a story from the New Testament that reflects the relationship between God or Jesus and us. And the examples, the parable stories, the crucifixion stories, resurrection or Pentecost stories. All right. So they're your choices. So pick from those. All right. Pick one specifically, read it, analyze it. Okay. Analyze your story using biblical criticism, the same as up here. Okay. The three worlds of text to understand the text and its importance today. Okay. So it may be talking about a goat. It may be talking about a leper or something like that. We want to look in front of the text. Why was that story used then? What is it saying? What does it mean to us? Okay, so we want to use those three worlds of the text just like we did up here. So those two are very similar. One's based on Judaism in the Old Testament. This one's the New Testament and Christianity. And then finally, number 3. Okay, this one's a little bit different because it's not asking you to do stories. It says describe how Islam represents Allah in the Quran. Okay, and identify how important Abraham is in the Islamic faith, giving reasons. Now, it doesn't ask you to pick a story. It just says to to describe how Allah is represented in the Quran and identify how important Abraham is in the Islamic faith. All right. So I would be expecting you to find sources using the library databases and actually find some sources that talk about, scholarly articles that talk about how Islam is represented in the Quran. Okay. And then find scholarly articles that discuss how Abraham, how he is important in the Islamic faith, okay, and give reasons for that, provide justification. So again, using the library databases to be able to access those, allow you in-text referencing and citation, as well as a proper and full bibliography in the end. Okay, now I would encourage you to investigate this as well. All right, you might go, I would suggest, and it'll add strength, particularly those of you who are looking to do quite well, and I hope all of you are, is to support some of your own research with research from others. So you might choose Noah and the Great Flood, and you do your analysis, but you also went and used the databases to find some critical analysis of the story of Noah by an expert, and to use that to support your argument, or also to show a differing view. Okay, if you are able to do that, that's going to take your assignment to the next level. Okay, so that's your assignment in a nutshell. All right, moving forward to the other bits and pieces. Okay, retrieval and comprehension. This is your marking guide and how you're going to do it. Retrieval and comprehension, analytical process and knowledge utilization, as well as research and communication. So your research, okay, getting those supporting articles, and communication, how you've written your article. Have you done it in, up here we said formal writing. Okay, so we don't use I think or we think. You use formal language to explain something to your author. Okay, and if we have a look over here, these are what's called cognitive verbs: describe, investigate, analyze, identify, and they are used here. Okay, so you'll notice a link between the cognitive verbs and your marking criteria, where it asks you to describe something. We can see here this is going to be in retrieval and comprehension, which is this section here. So whenever you describe something, you're adding to this section here. Analytical process is analyze. When you're asked to analyze, which you're asked to do in these two in particular, that's going to be your analytical process. The knowledge utilization is your investigate. Okay, when you're investigating, identify, we've got to do that. Highlight that one there. All right, that's important to know. All right, so the conditions of your assignment. All right, 500 to 800 words. Okay, so if you break that into 3, that's 3, 3, and 2 for each paragraph. Okay, so the first two are obviously going to require more in-depth, they're larger things, more things to do. So I probably, if you're aiming for 300, 300, and 200, that's 800 words. Write your exploratory essay which answers the above questions. Your teacher will support the development of the focus question for research and provide guidance to support your assignment. Do use the assignment help page in the resource center page to help you begin. Okay, so I encourage you to use that, please. You'll begin some time in class with support from your teacher to review your work. Okay, and so you'll notice on Moodle that there's a few lessons that we're going to be going through, and I'm going to be asking you to keep up so you're staging it. Okay, so we want to be working on this consistently throughout the term, not rushing it last minute. You must provide a list of references used in your essay. Okay, I expect to see in-text references. Okay, in-text references, all it is very simply the surname, comma, year. All right, so the author's surname, comma, year. All right, but there's another bit. I'll show you a video. I'll provide a video that will help you do that using the Word tool, which will make things much easier and much more organised for you. And then, like magic, produce bibliography in perfect APA. So make sure you look out for that. Any research mentioned in your essay should have. I'm going to cross that out and say must have. Okay, must have an in-text reference that links to your reference links. So everything you have in your bibliography, you must have used once in your writing. That's just good quality research. Okay, it shows you're organised. And again, use that. Watch the video on how to reference. It'll make your life much easier. And you're to submit your task electronically to Turnitin, and a receipt is to be attached to your final submission. Now there will be a submission button on Moodle, which I'll explain in class. And you're to submit your signed task criteria sheet, good copy, and turn a receipt to your teacher on the due date. We will discuss that further. All right, we talked about this. These are the cognitive verbs from Marzano: describe, investigate, analyze, and identify. Now on the Moodle page, I've actually shown links for you to identify what these actually require you to do. What does it mean to describe something? What does it mean to investigate something? If you're asked to analyze, what exactly does it mean? Okay, analyzing is actually quite an in-depth process, so it's not simple. So you're required to do a few things, so it's important you understand. The audience and purpose is here. Now, I won't go through that, so you need to know that. Just have a quick read through that. Again, 500 to 800 words. Okay, I'd be very surprised if you could manage this in 500 words. 800 words is what I'd be aiming for. Okay, and you've got about 4 weeks, and we'll be going through it. All right, there's some task steps here. I'll let you read through those, but in class we might be doing these in a slightly different order. And then your authentication statement, which you need to fill out. Okay, you would have seen them before. Standard assessment drafting policy. Okay, and then finally, this is our marking criteria here. Okay, this is already a fairly long video, so I'm going to leave this here for now. I'll do a separate video on looking at how to utilize this. But this should be your bread and butter. Constantly going through here. I would hope that you use this so much that you could probably self-market. Okay, and the key to doing that is by having a look at these and comparing. Has a comprehensive, has a thorough, has a satisfactory. Okay, and we'll talk about more in the subsequent video. So I hope you find this helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to come and see me in class.